What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to NerdWide Podcast. This is episode 30. I'm your host, Tyler Haynes, and to my immediate right is Mr. Chris Rivers.
What is going on, Tyler?
I was wanting the same thing, Chris. I want to know how's life going. I know before we started recording, we were talking about getting our Black Widow plans together for premiere night, and that things are opening back up. We're both fully vaxxed. It's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I think everyone, their anticipation for that movie is at a peak level. It's been bumped back, what, 4 times
Oh
now?
yeah,
So it's time to see this.
it's a year and a half since we were supposed to originally watch it, and it
Yeah,
just blows my mind. But
I'm ready.
pandemic, and I mean, hey, this weekend's the first time we get to see each other in person since everything's happened, so that's always
Yeah,
exciting. Then you can
yeah,
grab this box over here, the thing right
yeah.
there. Oh, guys,
I
this
may I may stop on the way and pick up an external hard drive for that thing
I
over there.
would. I've got mine for the PlayStation 5, and I've got some stuff to talk about with that bad boy here in a little bit. But guys,
Oh
this
yeah?
is the NerdWide podcast. If you like what you hear and see, make sure you subscribe to us on whatever platform you're on. If you're on YouTube or whatever podcasting services you listen to us on. And if you enjoy the show, make sure you give us a good rating or a thumbs up there on YouTube. If you don't like what you hear, leave us a comment. Let us know what you don't like and how we can improve the show so we can help, widen our audience in that way. As always, if you want to go to that extra little mile, you can go to patreon.com/nerdwide and give us a couple bucks. There's a couple little tiers there you can do with a couple little goodies for each tier if you wanted to do that. And now, not a heavy news week. Of course, we had E3 for gaming, so we had to talk about the Nintendo conference. Um, and that's pretty much it for gaming. TV and news, maybe one or two news articles each. But what we're going to fill those gaps with is, of course, our heroes' cravings for Superman and Lois, episode 10, and Loki, episode 2. So we'll go full spoilers into both of those. And, of course, we have our movie review this week, which was 1992's Chaplin, or Chaplin's 1992. I guess it's the only Chaplin. I don't know why I put the year on that one.
There's another one out there, but it's not.
Not
I
anywhere
think it's
close.
from another. Well, it's from another country
Oh,
and another year as
well,
well.
well. Speaking of, we're recording this on Monday the 21st. You have 9 days left to watch Chaplin on Amazon Prime before it leaves. So just keeping you all updated on that one.
Leaving?
Yeah, it says when I was watching it, when I first logged in, it said you've got 11 days until it's leaving Amazon Prime. I guess until you have to start praying
Wow.
for it, or paying for it. Don't pray for
Praying for it?
it.
I don't know if you should. No,
Oh, Chris,
it's
what?
not that serious, right?
Chris, what have you been watching this week on TV? Anything good?
Very little. I'm getting caught up on some Young Sheldon.
Ah,
Um, I think I'm down to the last 4 or 5 episodes.
is
So,
it over?
uh,
Oh,
no, it's just it's done for the year.
gotcha.
So,
So you're catching up on that.
um, I got caught up on that a little bit, and then of course R2 shows, but that's pretty much all I watched.
Now, I've been struggling. I know last week I talked about I've been watching a bunch of E3 stuff, so I hadn't really watched any TV um, while I'm working. But I found something, a show I used to love called The 100, another CW show.
Right?
And they have, I don't know what it is with the CW, but just about every show I am a huge fan of. And I forgot
Hmm.
how much I enjoyed this, so I stopped watching at the end of season 3. So I am now currently almost done with season 6, and it ends on season 7.
That was just this week, right?
Yeah, so I am.
Yeah.
I've watched 2.5 seasons of the 100, and man, what a show! And there's not very many shows out there that make me feel uncomfortable as much as, like, I guess, anxiety and panic inducing as that show does. Like, I am in constant fear of something's going to go wrong, which it does, which is what the writers do so well, is that they keep you in that constant state, like, oh, well, this is going great, But there's something that's going to happen. It happens every episode, and I absolutely love it. It keeps me on the edge of my seat and not let me work to my fullest potential. But
Yeah, but we're gonna edit that out in case someone at your work watches.
ain't nobody from work is under the age of 50, so.
Oh, what you got against old people?
No, there's nothing against them. They don't.
I'm not that far away. Don't.
And then,
Anyway, change the subject.
and then the second show I watched this week is The Bachelorette. Meant to mention it last week. It started up, and I know it's another thing. I love the drama. I love trashy reality television. Oh, and I've been watching. Speaking of reality television, I've been watching The Ultimate Fighter as well. It's been back first time since 2018. And as a stakeholder of the UFC, I feel like I should put my money where my mouth is. And I enjoy reality television. And what's more fun than reality television for The Ultimate Fighter? So, and that's it, man. And besides our two shows we talk about in review, but I'm telling you, I'll have the 100 finished this week, and I don't know what else I'm going to watch after that. I think I need to watch Batwoman just to watch it. Who knows? It could be like Stargirl, where it just sinks its hooks into me, and I can't watch anything else. I doubt it, but you never know. So, but Chris, I want to get right into our hero cravings here. Our first one here is Superman and Lois, Season 1, Episode 10, Oh Mother, Where Art Thou? And this one's ratings are 0.20, which is up from 0.19 from last week. And here we go. Let's jump right into it. Don't have a whole lot of notes because there was a whole lot of story here that just didn't really add to anything in particular. We've talked about this before. It's mainly with the Cushing family, with Lana and everything. Just none of it really matters much. But what matters to the story I did put in here. We start right back off on this episode where we ended with Morgan Edge calling Superman brother, but it's just kryptonite based, and then he says, actually, no. We are half brothers. We have the same mother, and his name is Tal-Rho. Did not see that coming. We talked last week, did not think it was going to be literal, because there's not really much in lore about him having a brother. Nonetheless, it being Morgan Edge. But I kind of really like what they did with this. He starts talking to Kal-El, telling him that he got here first and landed over in Britain, and some farmers found him and shot him, which of course is going to, we've got two different parallel stories here with Superman and Tal-Rho here. He obviously asked Superman to join him, and he obviously says no, and then they do a little bit of a super fight, and then he tells him he's got, I forget the time frame, was it 24 hours it was a couple of days. I forget what the time frame was.
48.
48 hours.
I think it was 48 hours.
And just pulverizes him. Of course, it's Superman. So then we go right back to. I've got, for those listening, I've got on my phone. I keep my notes in the little notes in the app here, and I crack myself up with some of this writing when I take these notes. So we have the super fight. We do the whole 48 hours thing. So then we go right back to boring old Lana household. Kyle's outside because everyone thinks he's been drinking, but in reality he doesn't really know what's going on, blah, 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 blah. Clark comes home, tells Lois and the boys everything that's going on. I really like how we're keeping the storyline from 2 or 3 weeks ago where they're keeping the whole family involved and not just keeping everyone in the same loop. Clark then goes to the Fortress of Solitude for answers and doesn't really get him. Again, I'm still not 100% okay. I really don't like who plays the dad of Superman in this show. It doesn't really mesh with me.
It was off.
Yeah, it doesn't really just feel right. Of course, doesn't get any answers there because why would he get answers there? We see Lois stops in to check in on Lana. And Kyle chokes Lana and Lois, and the DOD locks him up. It was a whole big ploy. They found out where he was, so they go in there. Lois does a cool little thing. She keeps kryptonite in her hand. It punches him, and he goes down. I was like, oh, that's a little weird. But then we found out that she's got kryptonite in her hand. I was like, okay, makes sense. I like what we're doing here. Gets locked up, and then we go to the team, and the team here is Clark, Lois, and Lana. trying to figure out what's going on, what's really at Morgan Edge's plan here. We find out that there's a scientist helping him, and then we see Superman fly in to capture him. We find out that in order to reverse engineer the process, we need to find Clark's mother because she built the machine. So what do? They need to find us a human host. Obviously, for story-wise, it's Lana Lang, and Lana volunteers while clearly having a crush on Superman. And I put in parentheses here, why do they write her to be so idiotic? How can she really not figure out that it's Clark? So she even mentions it in this episode. She says, things have been really weird since y'all been here, and it hasn't been weird like this for a while now. I'm like, no shit. It's because Clark is here. I mean, can we not? What are we doing here? I just don't get it. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Suddenly Superman's coming around again.
Right. Suddenly he's always in Smallville.
He's got the same voice.
Right. Same jawline. How do you not? You dated this kid. So, anyways, right. It never makes any sense to me. Glasses can only go so far, and I get it, but you know what I mean? Yeah. So Lana officially agrees to go through with it, and Superman is officially reunited with his mother, which was
Lana Lang.
Right, Lana Lang. Again, very weird, but to each their own, I guess. So that was the whole plan of Morgan Edge anyways, was to reunite with her mother with a human host, but we find out Lana does it by volunteering instead. We find a way how to stop all of these and reverse engineer all their brains by superheating I forget what they called it, some device that Lara made, and essentially just reverses everyone. The restrictor. Is it?
Wasn't it extractor or was it?
I know it started with the E. Let me just Google this.
Yeah.
Superman.
But while you're looking that up, just FYI, this was the last thing I watched this week.
Okay.
Of the things we had to watch, because I was procrastinating on it. Because it's been a struggle.
Oh, I am so glad you brought that up. I want to get through the episode and then I want to talk about it some more. Because I've got a whole thing that I want to say on that. Because I said it the whole time, because Jamie's been watching it with me. And she hadn't liked it since the beginning. Anyways, I can't find out what it was. No one's talking about it.
But
the device. So, Edge calls for Superman again after his advancing his plan's timeline. We hear Edge's story and why he is the way he is. Find out that the military got him when he was young, an old teenager, and had been experimenting on him, testing him, and he eventually breaks free. And I enjoyed the way they did this. I put in here two different stories, same powers, kind of same backstory. Morgan Edge was a little bit older, but I thought it was kind of crazy because that's exactly what would have happened here in America if the Kents didn't find Clark. And I thought it was cool how they did that parallel story. It might have been the only thing I enjoyed about this episode. Let's see. All of the turned Kryptonians start flying off after being called by Morgan Edge. Thought that was kind of crazy. There were a lot more of them than we originally believed. And start flying off. Superman flies to the device and ignites it, and everyone was returned to normal, and Superman flies to the fortress exhausted, which will be exhausted for a couple of days, and that's all I've got on the episode. I mean, it was not... It was a lot of the same problem I had last week, where I'm just not interested. And coming back to your point just from a minute ago, I really think that this show needs the same tone, writers and directors from your Arrowverse shows. And I know they say they're still connected, but I don't feel it. Like, this needs a Flash and or Legends of Tomorrow feel to it. Yes, well, Supergirl's gotten to a little bit of like a cheesiness point to me, but they still need that. Like, I understand the tones and everything they're going through. I'm trying to make this more of a serious show, but to me, if they don't come in with season 2 and make it Um, I don't know, just different. It's not really the writing. I think it's the way it's shot, and it's just not. It's not fun. It's not what your normal Arrowverse shows are right now.
Let me ask you something that came up in this episode, because there's only one other place that I remember reading or hearing about this, and it's when Lana as Clark's mother, right,
Mm-hmm.
is explaining how his half brother came to be. And she mentions that she was genetically matched with um
Is it
Talrose father.
right?
And then met Jor-El, Kal-El's father, and they fell in love. So she left Talrose father and was with Jor-El. Maybe I've just missed it because I've always been more of a Batman fan than Superman. The only other place I've seen that sort of thing mentioned is in Krypton.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they haven't. Not. I don't know about any of the animated shows, but I know like in the movies they haven't mentioned it. Hell, she hardly
Yeah,
gets mentioned. And
I don't know if it's yeah. I mean, that's one thing that I saw after this episode came out. I saw it on social media. There was an article about how um, she's finally getting some attention
mm-hmm.
because it's always about Jor-El. But the fact that they, and again, maybe at some point someone did some canonical work as it pertained to Krypton, and I'm just not aware of it. But it's odd that the show Krypton lays this out, and then it's used on Superman and Lois.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, yeah, yeah, y'all could borrow a couple other things from Krypton,
Yeah.
and
The cast, the writing. I just I just don't. It's not. It doesn't have the Arrowverse feel, and I know it's something we mentioned the beginning of this show, like the beginning of the season, is is it a part of the Arrowverse? And they say it is with multiple time multiverses and things like that, but I mean, hell, Superman is very prevalent in Supergirl. Like, I mean, he's in episodes. They
yeah,
talk about him. They mention him, but no one's mentioned Supergirl like at all. Like, if I'm one of the boys, that's something I would be mentioning. And I don't know if it in the
yeah,
writing room or high up they said, "Hey, we need to kind of split off and make this not part of the Arrowverse." But I'm like, I'm pretty
it's
sure.
part of it already.
Yeah, if you can't use the same actors and actresses to say it's not.
No,
Arrowverse crossover
um,
2021.
but yeah, I still wish because I don't know why they need to show Jor-El as a older man. Like Clark's a baby
Yeah.
when he's sent off, so he could be younger, and they could have cast Cameron Cuff in this role.
Oh, that would have been fun. And like, or just had it somehow do the grandfather or something like that. I'm
Yeah,
trying to. I know there's no crossover this year because of COVID, but I'm trying to. They put out a promo pic. I'm trying to find that and see if it's.
you know what they should have done?
What's that?
They should have done an animated crossover, just like a short special, like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and had everyone do their voice
Mm-hmm.
uh, over Zoom. Just something different. I don't know. Just a thought.
Yeah, no, I would have enjoyed that. There it is. Yeah, so it's Suit Up is what it is, and Superman is a part of this promo image. So, uh,
Yeah.
I just, I just, I just did the
It's
podcast.
not even. I think it's more a writing thing. It's certainly not the performances. The
Mm-mm.
performances are good. Um, we're getting a lot of focus, like you've said, on Lana's family, and I don't see the reason unless the payoff is going to be that Kyle bites it at some point.
Right.
And maybe it's coming because he wants to kind of make amends for being an idiot in terms of putting himself in the position that he did with Edge. Edge is still around. Maybe Kyle sacrifices himself. But it's not a character that I feel like is, and part of it's probably the way they introduced him. He was just a douche from the get-go.
Right.
And it's, you just don't, when you put a character in peril, your audience has to care to some degree about that character. I don't think people care about Kyle.
Mm-mm. I just don't
Just
care about the
don't.
Cushings at
It's
all.
well, Lana brings something to the table. Lana, however you want to say it.
Depends part of the country you're from.
She brings she brings something to the table. You know, like there's some possibilities there with her history with Clark, and Sarah brings something to the table in terms of her connections with Jordan and Jonathan.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the problem is even those two characters, if you take them away from the Kents, yeah, it's kind of like, all right,
Mm-hmm.
like,
And no
well,
one's even talking about Sophie,
whatever.
the youngest daughter. They were just like the
Yeah,
whole time, like they were all arguing or whatever. And they said, "Oh, well, she's with my parents now to keep her safe, and they'll take care of her." And I'm like, "Okay."
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know.
They
This show is starting not to become. At the beginning of this season, I really enjoyed it, and it was one of my most favorite things to look forward to throughout the week. And I'm just not. I'm looking forward to the Bachelorette more.
everything everything pre-break was solid,
Right.
right? It was enjoyable. And since it's like they haven't been able to find, and maybe these episodes would have gone down a little bit differently if they hadn't had the break,
Yeah.
because you would have still been on that week to week thing, and maybe still comes back at the end. Maybe Kyle somehow gets taken over again and still comes back and it's just like, look, I know y'all don't want to do this, but this guy's got to die
Right. I
because
mean, we
we
still have
have no
five
way to save him
episodes
again.
of this. I mean, there's a lot that can happen. There's a lot that can be drug out too. So, ah,
5 more, huh?
yeah, five more. And that brings us
Well,
up
we
to
do we do have the possibility of Jonathan getting his powers
right.
to look forward to.
To me, I think that will
So
be
we'll
a
see how
last
that goes.
episode going into season 2 kind of thing. But
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. I mean, so that brings us all to our douche canoe segment. This is where we do the who has been the douchiest douche on the episode. Um, and it's a kind of pretty easy one this week. It's Edge slash Tauro. I mean, the way he just doesn't care. I mean, he's all about bringing the Kryptonian heritage to Earth, which is, I find out what, now I'm starting thinking about that is every single Kryptonian's ideology. I mean, what's his name, the big bad in all the other
Uh,
movies? Zod. That's what he wants to do. He wants to bring other Kryptonians here, and I mean that's what Talro's wanting to do. Now I'm sitting here thinking about it. Can we not do something a little bit more original than this storyline?
if that farmer just had not shot him, like,
Yeah. Morgan Edge could be British. Hey, Alloy Clark.
well, I mean, he kind of is, but
Yeah.
he might like people more.
Yeah. They could be more than, good brothers together. He can handle
Yeah.
that hemisphere. Clark handles this hemisphere. Anyways, let's go into something a little bit more interesting. Let's go into Loki episode 2, The Variant. Now, I was telling Chris before the show as well that I forgot to write notes for this one. So I'm going over to comingsoon.net for their loose recap of this one. Blah, 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 blah. The, the second episode opens with a quick recap of the premiere where Loki was last seen escaping his chat with Mobius. Seeing his event.
Recap of a recap.
Recap of a recap is that's usually how all these Marvel shows do. We also get a reveal that the On the Loose variant just murdered a bunch of Minutemen in 1858 Oklahoma. where they're saying he's a version of Loki is who this is. So the last variant, oh, that was the previous episode. I should skip that. Anyways, the latest variant attack kicked off at a Renaissance fair taking place in 1985 Wisconsin. A group of Minutemen casually stroll into the fairgrounds and use their Nexus energy tracker to follow the variant into a dimly lit tent. Obviously sets up a trap, but let's keep going on here. After realizing they walked into a trap, the commander of the group, Hunter C-20, gets touched by a glowing green finger and begins fighting the rest of the team. As we learn later in the episode... the trap. As we learn later in the episode, the variant is indeed possessing the person and continues to do so until they decide to have enough and exit the unconscious body. The variant grabs the commander, opens a time door, and strolls out of 1985. Again, I'm going to see if I credit this. Michael, I'm going to butcher your last name, Kokswara is who's writing this recount. What does this have to do with our Loki? Understanding our Loki is the key to understanding the variant, or as Loki likes to assume, the lesser Loki. This is a plan by Mobius puts forth early on and eventually proves successful. A team including Loki, Hunter B-15, Mobius, and a group of Minutemen is assembled to return to the 1985 incident to find any noteworthy clues. Once there, Loki goes on an elaborate tale of being aware of your surroundings and playing into traps by blindly following leads. Mobius calls Loki's bluff and group exit as a Nexus charge is released, restoring the area to its natural state on the sacred timeline. Like most things that fly out of Loki's mouth, there's more likely some truth to what he was saying. I thought this was really well done. Specifically, the first group of Minutemen they come into, that's not what you're supposed to be wearing. The lady did.
Too is I had glanced away right as it showed her. I had to look back real quick because I thought that was Agatha Harkness for just a second, because she really favored was it Catherine Hahn?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, is that? And I was like, no, that's not her.
Wouldn't that have been some stuff?
But that would have been
they hide out at Ren fairs. As we see the next set of scenes of Loki studying up on his past case files of the variant, Loki is still reeling from his discovery from the previous episode. In a world-space existence where the Infinity Stones are more than mere paperweights, the Timekeepers who rule over the TVA are the most powerful beings in existence. Loki wants to meet them and, better yet, overthrow them for his own desires. Based on his chat with Mobius late in the episode, we see Loki is not a fan of the three magic lizards and their complete control over the TVA. It turns out Loki is a big fan of free will and Mobius is a big fan of jet skis. So they started off after the Ren Fair of Loki going through, we're going to call it national training with the TVA, of learning what the TVA is about, how they operate, their policies and stuff like that. I thought it was very well done with Miss Minutes jumping around. He's trying to slap her with the book. I thought it was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. There's a blah. I'm just trying to make sure I get all the filler article out. Loki discovers a file that eventual destruction in Asgard for Thor Ragnarok after he fails to classify information on the TVA's creation. It's traumatic for Loki, but hey, this is where he discovers the very secret. An area or world that's annihilated or completely wiped out of existence by an apocalypse is a perfect hiding space for a variant to shield their Nexus energy. What you change, the people you interact with will not matter, because as they'll be gone within the hour anyway. Your presence changes nothing. Of course, they test this out in Pompeii, Italy in 79 AD. Long story short, no Nexus energy is detected, even after Loki releases a few goats, throws some food around. And with that confirmed, the duo starts searching through the Apocalypse files between the years 2047 and 2051. This corresponds to the manufacturing date of the blue kablooey candy found at the previous variant attack. And that is the one where we find out that is where our variant is hiding. I thought that, again, completely different writing styles and just how well the writers write MCU. Because that, I would have never thought of stuff like that. Again, I guess that's their job, and this is why I do what I do, and this is what they do what they do. But putting, you can't change time with things that are already supposed to happen. I guess the Battle of New York would probably be one, if we're going in MCU history. Obviously Ragnarok, which I thought was really cool of him reacting to it. a little bit more and seeing everything. Um, that's pretty cool. I like how
He
they do
ha
things.
he he has that emotional moment when he's reading the file
Mm-hmm.
and his eyes start to water and everything. But when he's talking about it with Mobius, he's like, well, all those people died, and Loki's like, oh, yeah, them, yep,
Yeah,
whatever.
he's
And
he
it's like,
he knows what he's doing. I mean,
yeah,
that's his whole character. Yeah, like he doesn't care, but you know he does,
uh-huh,
and we see that over the
right,
various vast movies he's been in. And
hmm,
it does the same thing here with the previous. Oh, it's just so great how they write him, and just Tom Hiddleston is a phenomenal actor.
yeah,
Um, After reluctant permission from the judge, or from I don't know why they just called it the judge, so put some respect on the Renslayer. Um, they allowed the crew gears up and heads to Haven Hills, Alabama, where a Category 8 hurricane is set to destroy the town and everyone caught in its path in 2050. All the town is sheltered in a massive Roxcart shopping center and warehouse where the variant is likely hiding. Not outside where a water tower just slammed into an electronic billboard. I don't I don't know why that guy put that in there. Anyways, the time traveling team enters Rock's cart and split up into two teams while the variant watches from security cameras above. A timer for 20 minutes is set by the variant on some sort of TVA device. Hunter B-15 goes with Loki while Mobius leads the rest of the team. Mobius eventually finds the kidnapped commander from the start of the episode in a catatonic state, repeating the phrase, "It was real." I don't know. Did we ever figure out what that was about? It was real?
no. And I wonder if there was, well, no, that wouldn't have been it. I was wondering if the variant took her through the quantum realm,
Mm.
but I don't think that would have been it.
Did I send you
I don't know. That's
Oh, there's a theory we'll get at the end of this episode of how it all ties in
okay.
together. Oh, completely forgot about that. I need to put that in the notes. Um, Hunter B-15 and Loki encounter a shopper that transports the green energy into Hunter B-15. It looks like the variant Loki can speak through other people. Loki meets Loki, kind of. There's a lot of revealing back and forth between the two as variant Loki continues to switch bodies with random shoppers, and they get in a little fight. Ultimately, Loki proposes a deal with the variant to take action against the Timekeepers, but the variant, who makes it clear they believe they are the superior Loki, declines. They've got other plans. I thought this whole scene was fun, the way that the two Lokis interacted, and if we see Loki be like, oh, he tells Mobius, he goes, I don't want to take over the TVA anymore. He goes, I'm here to help, be the hero, be the good guy. And then when he's face to face with himself, the variant, he is gone back into the way. He goes, let's take these people over together. We can rule them together as the Lokis. And the other one does not want to do that. After some fighting and some passing of time, Loki regains consciousness while the variant tinkers with another TVA device nearby. With a minute left in the timer, the variant takes off the mysterious hood and reveals himself as Lady Loki. In that same moment, Lady Loki's timer and the plan take effect. Reset chargers scattered all around the store are set off just before each one is pushed through different time doors. Again, awesome writing. This is only episode 2, and huge things are happening, like just crazy things. So we go back to the TVA, and they quote yell, "Somebody just bombed the sacred timeline." As they're monitoring the whole sacred timeline, you see a bunch of Nexus events start spiraling and going off, going everywhere. Mobius runs towards Loki and just misses him as he makes a last-minute decision to follow Lady Loki through a time door. And that was that episode. I mean, he hesitated. I thought for a minute he was going to stay with Mobius, but he went with Lady Loki. But that's the whole character.
Yeah, I I was kind of I was kind of hoping that because I can't remember the issue, but in the comics, I think it's issue 5, 2 or 3 volumes ago of Thor. Loki inhabits, possesses, whatever term you want to use, Lady Sif.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that would have been kind of cool if it had been Jamie Alexander when she pulls the hood down,
Oh,
and there's Lady Sif possessed by a variant Loki.
there is a lot of theories going around that Lady Sif is in this episode. They've also talked about her being in Thor: Love and Thunder, which I just want her in all of it. If we're going to be honest, she needs to be an Avenger at this
Yeah,
point. But so
yeah.
there is a theory going around about Loki and the TVA is that the TVA is in the quantum verse. So they mentioned even in this episode that time passes differently here. They mentioned it
Yeah.
in Ant Man, the first one, and they mentioned it in Ant Man 2, Ant Man and the Wasp. The same. They said the exact same quote. Time passes differently here, and
So
people are,
you think we're seeing the quantum realm when it shows
yeah,
all that out there for the TV?
we're saying like the whole big city and everything because there's a scene
Uh,
where in Ant Man and the Wasp, like he's going through the quantum verse, and you can somewhat see a city, and they're saying that's what that is,
uh,
and that's why no one ever ages. Time moves differently. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool how they're going to keep that together because Kang is the villain of the new Ant Man, and we'll get to more Ant Man news to put that in there prior right now, but. I thought this was a really good episode, and when I'm watching this, I watched this with my brother. We started watching at the same time, and I said, "This I'm really, I don't know, really into this. I think it's the whole. I said it about every MCU show. I'm going to be completely honest, but I said this one's really got me because I'm just having fun watching it, and the whole buddy cop scene where they're talking in the cafeteria and just kind of he's like, you want to ride a jet ski? Well, why don't you? He says, well, it's not what I'm here for the TVA. And so Loki's whole thing is free will and letting people do whatever they want to. But Mobius is like set on a track and he doesn't want to variate from it. And I thought their connection there was fun. Their connection while they were going over cases together, looking for apocalypses. I love their chemistry. When they're playing together, and I love Owen Wilson. And I'm gonna really be ticked off if we don't get a wow out of him at some point during this whole show.
I love Loki just completely messing up his salad
Yeah,
when
just
when they're in
salt,
the cafe.
pepper, the juice.
It starts out with salt and pepper. Yeah, and then he just dumps the drink on there, and he's like, this is.
And
Um,
I loved having Casey
there
in that
were a
scene too.
few. Yeah,
Hey, it's my
yeah.
juice.
There, there's still a theory out there that he's actually someone else. That Casey is actually. Um, I think I even saw someone suggesting maybe he's Kang,
Mm,
maybe he's Mephisto. Um, a lot of people want Mephisto in the
yeah,
MCU. They keep
the
bringing him up
WandaVision really
every
messed with
time
them.
there's a mystery character. Yeah. Um, I there was one bit because after you watch enough MCU stuff, you realize they don't mention anything by accident,
Mm-mm.
right? Like if something is specifically called out, there's a reason for it. And Mobius makes the comment about the pen. He's like, "Oh, where'd you get this?" And they show the pen, and it's Franklin D. Roosevelt High School.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently, some people are making this leap. I don't know if it's going to work out or not. That because that would be in Brooklyn, that
Right.
one of the Marvel Comics characters from Brooklyn is Molecule Man,
Mm.
and they're wondering if he's about to show up or maybe already has shown up in the show. So
There's
maybe.
I love it, and it's just I'm trying to look up and see if anyone's got any fun Easter eggs. A lot of people are just I don't know reaching
They're
for a lot of
they're
stuff.
calling stuff Easter eggs that aren't
Yeah.
Easter eggs.
Here's the pin. So the
Like,
FDR high school pin is probably nothing. The school was established in Brooklyn, 1965, so there's no chance that Steve Rogers went there. We're trying to figure out if it's a Loki or Marvel related creator went to high school there, but so far there's no luck. Um, Also, is it us or does the Timekeeper's armor in Ravona's office look a lot like a Doctor Doom mask? And speaking of the Timekeepers, we have some theories whether or not they actually exist. There's stuff like that. Rock's card was originally developed by Steve Englehart and Sal Buscema in 1974 issue of Captain America. Kind of loosely based on Roxxon.
That's Roxxon, right?
Yeah. Lady
Roxxon
Loki.
and Exxon.
Yeah, all that good stuff. Lady Loki isn't new or all that surprising, as there was precedent for Lady taking on a woman's form for at least the last 15 years of comics, but it could not be Lady Loki after all. Sylvie Lushton was a regular human living in Broxton, Oklahoma, until one day shortly after Asgard reappeared over her hometown following Ragnarok. Long story short, Loki gave her powers just to mess with her. So,
And that could be her.
yeah, I mean it makes sense because we were in Oklahoma at that one point. Last episode at the very end, that was Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
could be, could not be. I mean, again, people are reaching for straws here. And of course, there's no ratings for this because when it comes to these old TV shows that drop on streaming services, they don't do it to the end. And so we also do not have an episode name for next week. But we do have a douche canoe. I know what you're all thinking and hearing. We're not going to do that, but we are. And of course, this week's is Hunter B15. Although, not really, you could say Lady Loki or Sylphie is the douche canoe, but we really don't know her motives. Is she really a douche canoe?
Right. Hunter B15 just... Mobius was going to go with Loki.
Mm-hmm.
They were going to team up and search part of the store, and she's just like, "No, you're not," and just stepped right in and took over. And it's like he's already arranged this.
Right. This is his team and project and everything. So,
yeah.
Don't give Loki any remorse.
It's funny too to see a kind of dynamic there, and then think about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. How would Coulson have handled that?
Oh, missed that.
So I don't know. Yeah.
Then that's it for. I think out of the two episodes, obviously the two shows, Loki is by far still hitting for me. And let's see,
They're gonna end around the same time too.
That's exactly what I was looking at.
1 week apart.
Yeah, it'll be because we've got it'll be 1 week apart. I was trying to see when this one ends. So we've got 1, 2, 3. Oh, so this show will end. Wait, no, a week after Black Widow comes out. So there'll be a little bit of an overage lap there, which goes back.
We'll have the Black Widow review. And then the next week we'll have the Loki finale review.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next week the Superman and Lois finale review.
Yeah.
A lot of ends and not many beginnings in sight. What If drops soon, so that'll be...
Yeah, that should be... Oh, I'm excited for that one. As much... I know it's going to be animated and everything, but I'm really excited about it. Just to see what they do. I got my full faith in MCU. But speaking of this show ending, Disney, we're going into our news section here. Disney Plus is taking all of its TV shows to Wednesdays now. We're going to the HollywoodReporter.com by Leslie Goldberg. Who says there aren't time slots on streaming? Disney Plus is shifting its original series release days from Fridays to Wednesdays. The news comes after Marvel's Loki, which shifted its premiere date from Friday, June 11th to Wednesday, June 9th, will become the streamer's most watched series premiere. The changes will begin in July and affect all global original series. As such, the premiere dates will shift for original series, including the animated Monsters, Inc. show, Monsters at Work, and live-action comedy Turner and Hooch, among others, obviously. Sources say the shift is designed to accommodate the increased volume of original content on Disney+. The Wednesday schedule is strictly for original series, including The Mandalorian and other Star Wars and Marvel TV series. Original movies will continue to bow on Fridays on the streamer. we've talked about this before. It makes sense because of, especially for like your MCU shows where your movies are dropping on Fridays and Thursdays. They don't want the news cycle to overlap each other. They want to keep dominating it. And I mean, it makes sense. I understand why they're doing that. And speaking of release dates, the last thing we have here for TV shows is CW releases its dates for the fall. Stargirl Season 2 comes out August 10th. Legends of Tomorrow Season 7, October 13th. Batwoman, same day. Season 3 is October 13th. And The Flash Season 8 is November 16th. I'm trying to think. I guess Supergirl will be done. Superman and Lois we don't know anything on yet. And Black Lightning's done. So
Yeah, yeah. So
that
that's
4 shows, and then I guess Superman and Lois will be our spring/summer show for CW.
yeah.
Mm.
They need a dark show. Uh, I'd actually like to see a CW show of Jonah Hex.
Mm.
Just
I think they've talked about that. That would be fun.
change it up a little bit.
Yeah. And releases this week, Wednesday, June 23rd. Too Hot to Handle Season 2 drops on Netflix. And Thursday, June 24th.
What about Too Cold to Hold?
Too Cold to Hold. I hate you, Chris. Thursday, June 24th is Godzilla Singular Point. That is the animated film and old animated show drops on Netflix. I might tune into that one because during Geek Week they talked about it and showed some stuff off. And I was like, oh, that might actually be good. But we'll see. I might tune in just for a second. But that is it for our TV section of the show.
Word? On the movies. So this week we watched Chaplin, starring Robert Downey Jr. And
this was
not really an early role for him, but
was this pre-cocaine?
he was in some.
Or was this? This is pre-rehab, rather.
Maybe during.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was in some stuff in the 80s as well. So, I mean, he was a little ways into the career at this point. First off, did you watch anything else? Was it
This is the only thing. It was a busy week here at the household.
Yeah, it was the only movie I watched. I did not stream it. I watched the disc. I've got just like the 15th anniversary. It's really strange because this was in '92, and it would just be 16 years later when Iron Man would come out.
Isn't that crazy?
And it's just wild. So to really give this a synopsis, it's basically just the life of Charlie Chaplin. You get to see him as a kid. This was a cute kid that they had playing him as the little, like when he's real little.
Mm-hmm.
He had the curly hair and everything, and he's interestingly enough, the woman that played his mom in the film was actually Charlie Chaplin's daughter.
Moira Kelly?
But no, Geraldine Page. Or Geraldine Chaplin. Geraldine Page.
Oh.
She was the mother, and yeah.
When that's
but his mother has issues, and I don't know. Tyler, you're the medical person. I don't know what this would be called. I don't think they called it out specifically.
No, they didn't. They didn't
I don't know
say
if this
what it
was
was.
schizophrenia.
Because the mother and the grandmother had it.
Yeah, she loses grip with reality. There's one point where he comes in a few years later, and it looked like a stone that she was kind of stroking. And she tells him that she had promised to get him plum
pie or something.
And she's like, "Here, I have it for you." And like in her mind, she has this food, and it's actually like a stone. So, but it starts out with her trying to perform, she's trying to sing on stage. Um, she begins to forget the lyrics. She starts to notice people aren't watching her, they're not
Mm-hmm.
listening, and so she starts to come apart. And he was probably 5 at the time, I would say. Uh, 5-year-old Charles or Charlie goes out there and takes her place, and everybody loves him. They're throwing coins up on the stage, and I'm just thinking, he's this kid's gonna get pelted with these
Right.
coins. Like, like people winging him up there. Um, but then you kind of flash forward to a little bit to them getting evicted. She apparently has no work. Charlie's probably still singing in the music halls
Mm.
to put some money in there. And again, you flash forward. You basically get his time up until he leaves England. It's probably the first 20, 25 minutes of
Mm.
the movie. You see his older brother. You see him have to commit his mother to a uh, asylum, and it's not long after that that he leaves as part of this. I forget the name of the man, but he has his own vaudeville type show,
Mm-hmm.
and so Charlie heads to America, and he's going to California.
Yeah, he
He
gets
gets over
a
there, and he
telegram
just
and
makes his way over.
gets paid $150 a week, which I know back at the time
Yeah,
is a lot of money. I'm like, good for him.
yeah. He makes his way out to L.A. and an LA that looks very different than
Mm-hmm.
the one today. But he goes out there and he walks right into the middle of a shot. And Max Sennett, famous Hollywood director of the time, during the silent era, is the one shooting the movie. He's the one that sent the telegram. Sennett tries to tell him that he's not really Charlie Chaplin because the Chaplin he saw perform was an old man
Mm-hmm.
and a drunk. And Chaplin then goes into his
I
routine.
thought that was so great.
Um,
I loved that part.
yeah, and just sells it. And Sennett says, "All right, all right, all right. You're Charles Chaplin. You get the 100 a week." And he's like, "That was 150." And he pulls out the telegram. Uh, and then from there, it's just his career and some of his personal life, and they do highlight his relationships. Um, they bookend it with when he's in England. There is a young lady that he meets who's a performer. He wants to marry her. She says no. He's about to leave for America. Um, and then later on, the same actress, Maura Kelly, comes back playing a different character, Una, who becomes his wife that he's married to until the end. But you can obviously they have that happen so that he this connection immediately develops because she's the spitting image of this person that he still cared about all those years later. Um, Now, Max Sennett's played by Dan Aykroyd. He's in this film. Someone else that's in this film is Mila Jovovich.
I loved it. I
Uh,
love seeing her in it.
eh, the thing about this though, we've talked in with some movies. Willy's Wonderland came up, um, and I'm trying to remember the other one that we kind of got these vibes from. But it was one of Chaplin's. I'm not. I don't know if you call it a hang up or if it's just one of his quirks. He liked younger women,
Mm-hmm.
and back then it was slightly more acceptable than it is now. Um, he Mila Jovovich's character is his first wife, I believe. Um, her character's 16 when she and Chaplin get together. Now, I looked because I remember seeing Mila Jovovich written about, and I was like, oh, she's not. She's in my same age range. So I looked it up. She was 16 when they filmed this
Of
movie.
course.
So the reason that that's so interesting is she actually has a nude scene in this. Um,
Yeah.
so it's it's come up before. Um, I mean, there are films out there that have done this sort of thing. I know in the 70s there was a film called Pretty Baby that is probably the most, I don't know if it was her first film role, but Brooke Shields is in that movie, has a nude scene. She was 12.
Oh.
Um, this sometimes, yeah, it sometimes happens with with movies. I don't understand how they get around certain things like that.
Yeah.
A lot, a lot of times they use body doubles, but apparently this was really Mila Jovovich in this shot. So, um, very strange, but considering the um, the story and what they were portraying,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because he did. Everyone, in fact, that's what J. Edgar Hoover of the FBI in the film is trying to get him on. The fact that he keeps getting with these young women who are like 15, 16, 17. And he mentions the way that Chaplin's getting around it is he marries them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's his wife. It's one of the big parts of the movie that, that's one of the controversial aspects of Chaplin. That, and at the time, and they touch on this, he was being labeled, thanks to Hoover, a communist.
Mm-hmm.
Years later, as that comes up, when he really wasn't. I
Mm.
mean, it was just that was Hoover. If he didn't like you, he tried to destroy you, and very unpleasant person. But I don't really know how to end the recap because it's a true story.
Yeah.
So it's like how it ends. Like he does eventually. Chaplin actually gets exiled from America. He leaves to go on
I thought that
vacation,
was terrible.
and Hoover blocks.
Oh.
Yeah, he blocks him from coming back. Um, and his wife does return, by the way.
Una.
Um, yeah, she came back over time whenever he had business in America. She would be the one to represent him. But he lives in Switzerland, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Switzerland that they moved to. And he lives there until he passes away. But he does come back to America once when he's given an honorary Academy Award. And of course, at that point, he's hailed as this genius and
And
this hero of the film community.
was that actual footage from the movies that they were playing throughout that?
Yeah,
Okay.
that was the real chap
Just double checking.
in those. Uh, the film does have a couple of other notable people. Fans of Last Man Standing or Rose Red or So I Married an Axe Murderer will recognize Nancy Travis in here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you also get Kevin Kline playing a great Douglas Fairbanks. I mean, that's Kevin Kline up there doing all the swashbuckling.
Mm-hmm.
He has this. The first time you see him, he's sword fighting at a party, and when Chaplin walks in and Fairbanks sees him, he's up in like this inset on this castle wall. He grabs hold of the rope that's that's tied, well, not tied down at that point, but you can tell it's anchored to the chandelier, and he swings down to Chaplin. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the sort of thing, but I mean, that's everything you read. That's how those Hollywood parties were back then. They were over the top, they
It's
were
crazy.
boisterous, they were
Love it.
basically who they were on screen. They were so used to playing those characters. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anybody else notable.
Anthony Hopkins is
Penelope
George.
Ann Miller's in this. Anthony Hopkins is in this. His character's the only one in the film that was fictional.
I thought I
His,
loved that whole aspect of the whole trying because you know, I made his autobiography and him trying to clarify things.
Hmm.
I really enjoyed that part of the movie.
Yeah, it's really really good. I think one thing that's interesting about this is they actually when after they cast Robert Downey Jr., they were thinking of casting someone else to play the older Chaplin. And I think it worked out great
Mm-hmm.
the way that they went with it. They just aged him. He looks like Chaplin. Uh, I read after watching the movie, Geraldine Chaplin said that her first scene that she had with him, um, she had to stop and collect herself because he
Oh,
looks so much like her father.
that would hurt.
Um, so yeah, but there's a lot to it. This is 2 hours and 15 minutes
Mm-hmm.
on the film. Um, Richard Attenborough's the director on this. He would actually go on to act right after this in Jurassic Park, but he's quoted as saying that the final version of the film he turned in, his first version was over 4 hours long. He had over 200 hours of film.
Release the
He
Edinburgh cut.
cut the 4 hour. Yeah. Well, the thing is, after he cut the 4 hour version down, it was 2 hours and 27 minutes. The studio cut 12 more minutes out of it. And he claims that the 12 minutes they cut ruined the movie.
Hmm.
So I'm curious what was cut.
Huh. See, there. You
Yeah,
know, I might just
I don't know.
email him. Hey, just curious.
But I'm curious. I mean, I've rambled on about this, but I want to hear your thoughts on
So
because I've seen this before. I saw this when it came out in theaters.
I went in thinking that I was not going to enjoy it due to it, one being older and it being like a kind of like a biopic, and that not really being my forte of movies to watch, nor with it being not knowing a whole lot about Charlie Chaplin, anyways. But I really enjoyed this movie, like to the point that I'm giving it a minus for me, just because it was like they did it well, like enough that yes, it's a autobiography pretty much of everything, but they did it well. Like I was interested and they made it fun for me. Like you see all of this history played out, and it didn't feel that dated either, just except for like some of the scenes. But I thought the whole communism aspect of it, then finding out at the end of the movie because they did the whole little what happened to everybody after the movie, like George not being a real person that happened. I was like, that's probably one of my favorite parts of the movie was him and George having a conversation about his life, and then the acting from Robert Downey Jr., which I've loved him ever since Iron Man, but his acting where he's at the Academy Awards and he's watching his work as Chaplin, not saying anything, but all of his emotions is in his face, even with the prosthetics on. And I was like, oh, that just blew me away. Like, I mean, it was great. Yeah, I mean, it's an A minus for me, and it's I don't know. I had fun with it, like seeing him, put all the paint on where he got put the little bowling cap on and the cane, and him starting his walk and how he learned to do his walk, and pretty much telling Senate that he's gonna go off on his own with his brother. I mean, I really enjoyed the movie, almost to the point that I almost went to buy the autobiography book. I really do, just to read it.
Yeah, just to see what they cut out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. When I entered this on Letterboxd, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars.
I do this every week. I forget to
Um,
put it in.
I'd be right there at about the I'd be right there in about the B plus A minus range, leaving a little bit of room so that if I ever do get to see that director's cut, I have a little room to work with if I want to go up. But yeah, it's well paced. It's definitely different compared to what we've been watching for the podcast
Mm-hmm.
because we've been watching a lot of action stuff and um, but it's very, very interesting to see because it is about movies as well.
Right.
You know, you're getting to look at how they used to make them. David Duchovny's also in this, by the way. Um, and you know, he's Sennett's cameraman and editor, and to see how they used to, you know, like the scene that Chaplin messes up, they cut away to um, Marissa Tomei also in this, her character on the train tracks screaming for help,
Mm-hmm.
right? And now, well, not now, now it's digital, but a few years ago you would have a machine that you would use to splice this film. Back then, you know, like the company puts the film in his mouth and he
Right.
bites it and he tears it and he glues this film together with this new strip in it and it seamlessly just
Mm-hmm.
rolls right through the projector. The sorts of things that they could do, you get a glimpse of a Keystone Cop chasing somebody and like whacking them with
Right.
a, a nightstick, and it's just this round cylinder, probably about the size of a telephone booth, with scenery spinning inside of it, and that they're just running in place. But in the silent film era, that looked like they were running down a road. But the little tricks that they had back then to replicate things like that were amazing. And you get to see Chaplin, you know, like you said, figuring out the walk, the series of pratfalls and stuff
Mm-hmm.
that he would do. And the fact that Downey was able to replicate those. I mean,
And so well.
that yeah, that in and of itself is talent. So it's I haven't watched this in years, but it's one of those movies. Yeah, I think of Iron Man now when I hear Robert Downey Jr., but this is always right behind it.
Oh, it for sure being his
Because I think
highlight
this
reel.
is yeah, yeah, I think this is probably from an acting stand, like if you were gonna say best acting performance from him with everything that went into it, it's probably this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Especially in his
he
younger
just
years,
did phenomenal.
pre-rehab.
Yeah, this is, or to put it a little more nicely, pre-Burger King,
Pre-Burger King.
right?
Yeah, that's
'Cause,
better.
all right. Well, let's get some news here. Um, First off, next week we're gonna watch Luca. So I've been looking forward to this one. It just looks fun,
The newest one
you
in the
know, and
Pixar
it's gonna
verse.
be that lighthearted thing before, yeah. All right, we have two news items for movies. First up, from Screen Rant and Richard Fink. Lego Batman Movie 2 unlikely to happen due to film rights. Um, so this says that, well, first to recap, Lego Batman opened in theaters February 2017. It was a hit. Um, it was a spin-off and follow-up to the highly successful The Lego Movie, and it seemed to be the beginning of the next big Warner Brothers franchise alongside the DCEU, Wizarding World films, and the MonsterVerse. However, after the disappointing box office returns of both Lego Ninjago Movie and the Lego Movie 2, the second part, Warner Brothers opted not to renew film rights to the Lego franchise. Instead, in 2020, Universal Pictures signed a 5-year exclusive deal with Lego to create a new film franchise.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're looking at franchises like Fast and Furious, Jurassic Park, Minions,
It,
and yeah, I don't
it's
know.
I haven't watched this movie yet, but I know a lot of people that have that really enjoyed it. The Lego Batman, But I
Uh-huh.
mean, that made a lot of money. And the fact that they can't do anything now with it is because they don't own the rights. And
Yeah.
I just thought that was interesting that that went down like that. But
It sucks. I mean, I get that the other stuff underperformed, but the one thing that you could probably bank on is Lego Batman 2. Why would you? I
right.
don't know.
I
It
know
just
those
it
other ones bombed, but put all your resources into that other one and you'll be fine. So
yeah. Um, Lastly, Paul Rudd confirms he is in London shooting Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantum Mania via an Instagram video.
mm-hmm.
So look that up if you want to see that. Um, I don't know. They're shooting in London.
Every yeah.
Any thoughts on?
They're I think it's because the whole Georgia bill. Disney and
Hmm.
Marvel are not doing Georgia anymore. So,
Yeah,
which is where they usually shoot.
yeah. I think yeah, because Loki's filmed there,
Mm-hmm.
so that's probably going to be the last one.
Yeah, because I know uh, for scene wise, they were in London. I know Winter Soldier was in London, but you think Doctor Strange is in London right now too. So,
Releases this week. We have F9, which opens in the UK at theaters on June 24th, and in the US in theaters on June 25th.
I'm excited.
That's all.
So
I'm
good.
not.
2 weeks until Black Widow. Now let's do our.
I'm excited about that.
No, I can't wait. Let's do our gaming section here. Now, have you been playing
Okay.
anything fun, interesting, anything crazy out there?
As you can probably see behind me, I last played some Assassin's Creed for about an hour and a half here
Mm-hmm.
before we started recording. So yeah,
I
but no, I mean, nothing too crazy.
I've played my usual Destiny 2, but I
Hmm.
have completed and platinumed Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Now,
Really?
this being the only PlayStation 5 besides like Returnal, I never played
Hmm.
Returnal, but this game was so fun. I said it last week. I advise everyone to get this game if they can and when they can with the PlayStation because it is it's so much fun. It's only 12 15 hours. That's give or take getting the whole platinum. The storyline's really good. It's visually phenomenal. The gameplay is a lot of fun and easy to do. Not bad for if you want to get a platinum. For it being your first one, it's not too bad. But I really enjoyed it, and I hope we get more. Insomniac is just killing it. I mean, Miles Morales just came out, 6 months, 4 or 5 months before this game did, and they're cranking them out, and you can't tell that they've been doing so many. So obviously, the next game from them will probably be Spider-Man 2. What, of course, we don't have any releases or any talks of it yet, but anywho's in. Speaking of releases and talks, we had our last E3 conference was Nintendo. It was on that Tuesday after recording, and here we're going to IGN.com, and this is by where is Adam Bankhurst for all of our news releases here. We're going in. We started off with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Tekken's Kazuya Mishima is officially coming to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. We're going into a release date on June 28th, which is right around the corner. It'll be next week. Metroid Dread arrives on Nintendo Switch on October 8th. Metroid Dread, the first truly new 2D Metroid game in roughly 19 years, will be available on Nintendo Switch on October 8th, 2021. Metroid Dread is a direct sequel to 2002's Metroid Fusion. Everyone lost their brains over that one. Mario Party Superstars brings minigame fun to Switch on October 29th. Mario Party Superstars is the latest entry in the Mario Party franchise, and it features online play in 100 minigames from the series past. In addition, it will include 5 classic boards from the Nintendo 64 era, and it again launches October 29th. The Legend of Zelda Game & Watch handheld announced with 4 different games on it. Comes with NES is The Legend of Zelda and Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, the Game Boy version of The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, and a special version of the Game & Watch titled Vermin with Link as the playable character. WarioWare is Get It Together is the title of that one. We'll bring a collection of hilarious co-op micro games to Switch this September. September 10th is a good day, again, my birthday. And we'll feature a new collection of new micro games that can play with a friend in co-op. Each player could choose a different character and boasts its distinct abilities. Lord. Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp will be available this holiday. Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope gets a new gameplay trailer. Obviously, we talked about it during the Ubisoft conference last week. Life is Strange True Colors and Life is Strange Remastered Collection join Switch's library later this year. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy Cloud version is headed to Switch later this year. Concerns me because if it could play on the Switch, it means it's not that good of a game, tech-wise. We talked about it last week when they showed it off. If it's coming to the Switch, that lowers my expectations for it a lot. Mario Golf Super Rush will receive free updates post-launch. That includes new golfers and courses. Fatal Frame Maiden of Blackwater announced for Nintendo Switch. Obviously not getting that one. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot makes its way to Switch this September 24th. Includes the boss battle episodes of New Power Awakens Parts 1 and 2. Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania officially announced for October 5th. Shin Megami Tensei 5 gets an official release date of November 12th. Again, does not look good. And I'm just going to go ahead and let you all know, Nintendo Pro, Nintendo Super Switch was never mentioned. So a lot of these games just don't look good to me for a 6-year console. Monster Hunter Stories 2 Wings of Ruin got a new trailer ahead of its July 9th release date. Danganronpa Decadence collects 4 Danganronpa games into one visual novel package. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 skates to Switch on June 25th. Doom Eternal The Ancient Gods Part 1 is available on Switch. Strange Brigade is a co-op third-person adventure that's available today. Just Dance 2022 will have you dancing on the Switch this November. Worms Rumble wriggles on Nintendo Switch on June 23rd. Cruisin' Blast speeds onto Nintendo Switch in the fall. And the one that they ended it off on, of course, is the biggest one from the show, was new trailer for Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. Gets a 2022 release date. They didn't ever give us an official date, just a new trailer, no gameplay. Of course, they did say, hey, we are living in COVID, and that's messed up a whole lot of us. So, which is to be understandable. And then, notable new releases this week: Sea of Thieves Season 3 for PC, Xbox Series, and Xbox One, June 22nd. Mario Golf Super Rush on the Switch, June 25th. Scarlet Nexus comes to all the consoles June 25th, and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 comes out on the Switch. So, a lot of stuff there. Not my favorite show from E3. I think Xbox Bethesda holds it, but other than that, I was expecting a lot more. But a lot of the older generations had a lot of new games come out for them. Like, I'm not a Metroid fan. I'm not the War one they talked about, I'm not a fan of. Danganronpa, I'm not a fan of. The WarioWare, I'll play it once it's heavily discounted. But that's $60, I can tell you that much.
No.
But that concluded E3 of 2021. And thus, go ahead.
Isn't it interesting that the console that really set the world on fire as far as video games, Nintendo, is now kind of the third in line?
Well, it's third in line here in America. Like overseas and especially Japan, like it's huge in Japan, which, I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
But Japan is having a lot harder of a time with COVID than we are. I mean, we're seeing evidence of that with the 2020 Olympics, which is now the 2021 Olympics. Like, they're telling people, do not come over here because they're still in a state of emergency. And obviously that impacts, because they're all used to working in an office together too. and now they're not. So, and
Right.
it's like everyone said, it's hard. It's hard to make a game, anyways, but it's harder to do it when you're not in a studio together. So,
Yeah.
but Chris, that concludes episode 30. I've got nothing else to say unless you do for our show here.
No.
All right, another banger of an episode, guys. Make sure you watch Luca for next week and Loki and Superman and Lois. You could miss Superman and Lois if you really wanted to, and hear us talk about it. But guys, that is it for episode 30. If you guys want to follow us on social media, you can follow the NerdWide account at nerd_wide. You can follow me at Ty_Haynes, and you can follow Chris at MathTN7 on Twitter. We also have Facebook. If you just search up nerdwide.com on there. And that's it. Again, don't forget to rate and review this podcast if you liked it. If you didn't like it, make sure you leave us a comment and let us know what you didn't like, how we can improve, things like that, or things you would want to see. That goes for anybody, really. If you got any feedback, let us know, because we can't fix it unless we know. But, as always, this has been this week's NerdWide podcast, and we cannot wait to see you next time.